Dave here with Coolfall. I want to go through all of the settings of the Spy flashlight. This is going to be a lengthy video, and you can skip ahead to whatever section interests you. This is an index to the chapters in this video. This is the microprocessor controlled board that's in the Spy. It's called an STFU Mark IV. It has a computer chip on it, and the software that's running in that chip I wrote myself. It is in the C language and some assembly, compiled and loaded into the chip. Gives the flashlight the ability to have very many different features. A Spy flashlight, when you turn the knob, the light comes on. And you can't access any of those features to change the settings in the light unless you take the battery cap off. When you take the battery cap off of a Spy, it's like the circuit board is powering down. It doesn't have power because the batteries are disconnected. That is analogous to shutting off your PC and restarting it. Now what the Spy flashlight does is when you put this battery cap on and you connect the batteries to the board, it looks to see right away what position the knob is in. If the knob is in the off position, then it just boots up normally and turns on the normal flashlight operation. However, the knob is in one of the other 6 positions, and you put the battery cap on, then the light will know, and it will immediately start this other application, and it will run this other code and take you into what I call a power-up mode. So there are 6 power-up modes. I usually just refer to that as power-up 1, power-up 2 through power-up 6. Power-up 1 is for setting what slot you want to select. Power-up 2 is for enabling or disabling a lock mode. Power-up 3 is to reset the light to factory conditions. Power-up 4 is for changing the power levels of the light. Power-up 5 is a reporting feature for letting you know what power level each switch position is set at. And power-up 6 is a battery reporting feature. And I will go through each one at a time. When you put the battery cap on in power-up 0, all that happens is the light just flashes one time. I don't know if you saw that, I'll do it one more time here. That is just telling you that the light is now working in a normal flashlight mode. The knob on the Spy, when you rotate the knob counterclockwise, that's to the off position. When you click it clockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then there's a stop at 6. So if you just roll it counterclockwise until it stops, this would be position 0, position 1, through to position 6. Power-up 6, just to give you an idea, that is a reporting feature that tells you what the battery voltage is. So you take the battery cap off, turn the knob all the way to position 6, and you put the battery cap on, and then you watch. Count the flashes. 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3.84 volts is the voltage of the average voltage of the batteries that are in the light. So they're two 4.2 volt batteries, and their average voltage is 3.84 volts right now. You turn the knob back off, and then you turn the knob on again, it will revert to normal flashlight function. So you don't have to do anything to start using the flashlight. After you do a power up of any kind, even a power up 0, it's always a good idea to shut the light off. Turn the light on and off one time, because that's necessary to put the microprocessor to sleep. Power Up 2 is a lock feature. If you have the standard military knob on a 007 and you want to lock the light so it can't come on, and you don't want to bother taking the batteries out, there is a lock feature that you can enable, and that way when you throw your flashlight in your backpack, you don't have to worry about it jiggling and getting turned on. It will stay off. So the Power Up 2 enables that lock. It doesn't turn the lock on. When the lock is not enabled, you can spin the light on and turn it off as fast as you want, and the light will not lock. But if you do a Power Up 2, 1, 2, you will see the light flashed very fast. Each time you do a Power Up 2, it will either enable or disable the lock mode. So you have to watch what it does. That single flash is a 1. That means the lock mode is enabled. If I do another Power Up 2, you'll see a strobe. And a strobe for the spy means a 0. And a 0, it means that the lock mode is disabled. So I'm going to take the battery cap, put the battery cap on. This time it flashed one time again. The lock mode's enabled. And the light will function normally. But to lock the light, you spin it on and off really quick one time, and the light will lock. Now, you can spin it on as fast as you want if you're using the light. But if you turn around and spin it off again super quick like I just did, now the light is locked. And you can see that when I'm turning the knob here on, no light is coming out of the light. It kind of flashes a little bit. Gives you a little blip whenever you turn it on and off. That's kind of like your indicator that the lock mode is on. It's safe now to put your light in your backpack and not worry about it coming on. Because what can't happen in your backpack is the cycling of the power on and off to get the to unlock the light. So to unlock the light, you go, and then the light is now unlocked. It's just that simple. Now, if you don't want this mode enabled, do your Power Up 2. 1, 2. I'll watch. I'm going to show you guys. That disabled the lock mode. Gotta do it one more time here. There, that's disabling the lock mode. And you turn the light off and back on, and now the lock is disabled. And it will not lock. Power Up 4 is how you change the light output levels of each switch position. There's a sequence of commands that you go through. It's very detailed. There's a graph and a chart showing you how to do this in the user manual. But I find it's really just a lot easier to see somebody do it. Let's say I just pick something that I want to program, and then we'll go through it. Let's say, as an example, I want to program switch position 2, which would normally be this bright, to be a little brighter than that. Normally that position is about 30 milliamps. If you want to set that to any particular number, and these light levels don't have to correspond, there's no limit on what you can set it to, other than it has to be between 5 milliamps and 3300 milliamps. So let's just say, as an example, I want to set position 2 to 1000 milliamps. What you do is you take the battery cap off and you do a power up 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. When you put the battery cap on, you have a limited amount of time to tell the light which switch position you want to be programming. You put the battery cap on, it's flashing right now. I'm going to turn the light off and go 1, 2. It's in a flashing mode here, and then now it's turned to full on. It stopped flashing. If I was programming switch position 1, it would already be strobing here. Now I will show you. The next step here is to turn the switch down until you get to position 1. Because we were programming position 2, position 1 was just one click down. Now what you're seeing here on the camera may or may not be too realistic, but what you will see with the light is that it is a fast strobe. The fast strobe tells you that your knob is in position 1. When you're in position 1, that's where you start to key in the values of the milliamps that you want to program. And it does it in a power of 10. One click adds 1 milliamp. 2 clicks adds 10, 3 clicks adds 100, and 4 clicks adds 1000 milliamps. So to program this to 1000 milliamps, all I have to do is go, and I count it in my head. I don't pay attention to what position the knob is in. I just go 1, 10, 100, 1000, and then I turn the light off. What will happen is it will have this slow flashing, and then it will turn solid, and it didn't stay there very long, but while it was in the solid or constant on, it was seeking to figure out what voltage was necessary to have the emitter pull 1000 milliamps or 1 amp. Then after that, you saw it sweep 3 times and it shuts off. So the light is now programmed so that it has a normal level 1, but level 2 is very bright. Level 3 is normal, 4, 5, 6. So level 6 and level 2 are actually the same brightness now, because the light defaults when you get it from the factory with level 6 to 1000 milliamps. What I recommend is when you're programming the light, just play with it. You can't hurt it, of course. There's nothing you can do that will hurt the light. It is good to keep in mind that if you're doing a programming of the light and it didn't respond the way you thought it to, or things didn't work, you really should reset the light using a power up 3, and I will be covering that in a few minutes. I'm going to program another position on the light right now, though, as another example. I'm going to program position 3 to a value of 321 milliamps. Battery cap off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Battery cap goes on. I quickly set the knob to position 3 because that's the one I want to program. I wait for the light to either stay on or be at that fast strobe. I quickly turn the knob counterclockwise or towards the off position until it starts the quick strobe. Now I know I'm ready to start the programming for this switch position 3. Now to key in 321 milliamps, you're again going to use that step where you're going to step in orders of magnitude. So I'll put in the 300 first. So that is, again, I'm not going to pay any attention to it. I'm just going to count it and look at it and count it in my head. So it's 1, 10, 100. You come back one click, 200, back a click, 300. And then I'll go back down till it fast strobes again. So that keyed in 300. Now I need to key in 20. 1, 10, back a click, 20. And then I'll go back until it's a fast strobe. And now I need to key in the final 1 milliamp. And you do that by click 1, back here, and then just turn it off. Then when the light gets done with this slow strobing here, then you'll see it adjusting the light output. And now it is finished, and it does the 3 sweeps. And now position 3 has been programmed to 321 milliamps. Power Up 5 is the reporting feature for the light output levels for each switch position. The battery cap off, go to 6, then back 1 to 5. Put the battery cap on. And now it's going to report what switch position you have it on. So I quickly put it into position 1. There are 3 quick strobes. 1, 2, 3, and 3 flashes. So the 3 quick strobes are 0, 0, 0, and then the last was a 3. And it will cycle through and it'll keep doing this. So I didn't change the switch position, so now it's just going about reporting position 1 again. If I turn the knob up to position 6, it should report 1000, which would be a 1. There's a 1. And then it should follow that with 3 strobes. 1 strobe, 2 strobes, 3 strobes. So that is 1000. I'm going to put it in position 2. That should also be 1000. 1, 0, 0, 0. I'm going to put it in position 3. I hope you can see those strobes. They're not so easy to see on the camera. 0, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 1. Now if you turn the light off here, it'll exit the reporting feature, and then you'll just be able to cycle it on and it'll be back to normal. Although it is programmed with these odd values in it right now. Once you've played around with programming your light, you really need to consider going ahead and clearing it, setting it back to factory, and then playing with it some more. If you're programming Power Up, if you're doing Power Up 4 and you're programming the light to other output levels, you should go check to make sure with Power Up 5 that you got what you intended to get. And when you're first doing it, it's not hard to get it wrong. But when it's right, it will report as it did, showing you exactly what power level each switch setting is set to. Power Up 3 will return the light to factory settings. So this is going to cover the function of Power Up 3, to reset the light or recal the light to factory conditions. 1, 2, 3. Oops. 1, 2, 3. And put the battery cap on. This is probably the easiest one because there's nothing for you to do but sit there and watch it. And it's a good idea to watch it. You will see that it will seek each power level one at a time. So right now it's seeking power level 1. And when it gets done finding it, it will then move on to power level 2. There's number 2. It dims down until it gets to right about where 2 is. Now it's starting on number 3. I know this is like watching paint dry, but you want to watch to make sure that it does complete its job. We'll get to each one. That was 4, I think. This should be 5, and then this is 6. And then once it gets done, it will strobe 3 times here and let you know that it's done. Now, the only way that this light won't finish that reset would be if you didn't have good batteries in the light. And when it went to try to program position 6, or in this case this reset, but level 6 to 1000 milliamps, the batteries couldn't put out that much energy, then what would happen is the light would get bright, but it would never finish this programming cycle. And if that happens, it's very important that you just get new batteries and then do the Power Up 3 programming again. Because when it doesn't complete, it will not do a cal. It will not register or record those values. Again, after any power up, you should cycle the power on the light 1 time. Again, that's necessary to get the light to go to sleep. If you do a Power Up 3, say, and recalibrate the light and leave it sitting on the shelf, the current drain is higher. It's not a lot, but it's higher than if you had cycled the power on and off 1 time. When you cycle the power on and off 1 time, the STFU microprocessor shuts down every circuit on the board that it can. There are about 6 different circuits that get shut down. And when they're all completely turned off, the current drain is about 6 or 7 microamps. That is a 6, 5 zeros in front of it. That's so low that that's about the same current drain as the modern batteries have in them, the primary batteries have in them. So it will have a many, many year shelf life. Power Up 1. I'll put this one last because what this programming mode does is it enables you to save a copy of your light. It's like being able to program your light for a certain situation. Like let's say you're using your light for photography and you want to have very specific power levels set for it. Or you're going camping and you want to have it set to lower levels so that your batteries will last for an entire week of backpacking. Or let's say that you have adjusted power level 6 to the turbo mode, which is 3,300 milliamps. But you don't always want to have that enabled. Power Up 1 enables you to switch between 4 saved configurations of the flashlight. So if you program the light and you've never used Power Up 1 before, you're programming in what I call slot 1 or memory position 1. And if you do a Power Up 1 and change the light to memory position 2, it will have default settings in it. And you will have to then go in and change those settings to whatever you want. But when you're in a particular memory position, or I call them slots, when you're in slot 2 and you do programming with a Power Up 4 in slot 2, and then you switch back to slot 1, whatever you did in slot 2 is still there. It's all saved. So the 4 slots that you have for saving complete flashlight configurations in also have one other feature or function, and that is if you have your light in slot 1 or 2, that is intended for any kind of battery, rechargeable or primary. But slot 3 and 4 is intended and will only work for rechargeable batteries, because slot 3 and 4 is the mode where the flashlight will look at the battery voltage at all times, and when the battery voltage drops below 3.5 volts, the light will shut off. And that is so that you don't over discharge non-protected rechargeable cells. So it's kind of simple. If you're going to use rechargeable batteries, you can use any slot you want. If they're unprotected rechargeable cells, it's a really good idea to use slot 3 or 4. If you're going to use primary cells, you can only use slot 1 and 2. To put the light into slot 2, so right now this light, from the previous programming examples that I went through, the last thing I did was I reset this light to a factory configuration using a Power Up 3. So I'm going to real quick do a Power Up 4 here and change something. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to set position 6 to 10 milliamps. 1, 10, I turn it off. It will program position 6 to 10 milliamps, and this will give me give you a good visual on what happens when we change to slot number 2. There we go, it's finishing now with the 3 sweeps. If you always look for 3 sweeps, you'll know that it has finished its job. So now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is a very low 10 milliamp setting. Now I'm going to switch the light to slot 2. That's a Power Up 1. Put the battery cap on, and I real quickly set the knob to position 2, and then I wait for it to report with 2 flashes. That is now set to slot 2. I'll turn it off and on, and then you will see that this is a normal factory programming. Now, when position 6 here is the full 1000 milliamps. If I was to do a Power Up 4 right here, I would be changing slot 2. But I'm not going to. I'm just going to simply turn it back to slot 1. Power Up 1. This is the easiest one because it's already in position 1, so you just wait. It will flash one time. Once. And now you can see that again, when full on, that's set to 10 milliamps. A lot of people use a couple slots. I don't know anybody that's actually used 4. The Tri-V is different because it has so many configurations that it can be put into, because it has 3 different emitters that can all be selected with all these different power levels. And it makes a lot of sense with the Tri-V to use maybe all 4 slots, but with a 007 or 005, using a couple slots is all that most people will need. Maybe one set, like I said, for camping, and another one for daily use. Thanks for watching. Please click like and subscribe, and check out my other videos on the support page at coolfall.com.